Well, this time last week, the Paris Olympics got off to a bad start. But this morning, things went from bad to worse, and women were the victims. Let's check it out. So everyone awoke this morning to these images and the accompanying media reports, as Daily Wire reports, after Italian boxer Angelina Carini was powerfully punched twice by an Algerian boxer in the Paris Olympics who had previously been barred from fighting women. She stopped her about 46 seconds and broke down in tears, saying she had never been hit so hard. Now, Carini is 25, was fighting Algerian Amani Khalif, who was disqualified from the Women's World Championship in 2023 after failing testosterone and gender eligibility tests. The International Amateur Boxing president, Umar Kremlev, asserted the DNA tests had proved they had XY chromosomes and were thus excluded. Now, Italian Carini, she said, "I'm heartbroken. I went to the ring to honour my father. I was told a lot of times that I was a warrior, but I preferred to stop in this bout for my health. I had never felt a punch like this. I got into the ring to fight. I didn't give up, but one punch hurt too much. And so I said, enough. I'm going out with my head held high." You know, the International Olympic Committee got this completely wrong. Why? Because they ignored biology. Although, as I said, it's not the first thing that they have got wrong in this Olympics. Now, the Olympics Committee came out with this statement. They said, let me just get the right statement. "Every person has the right to practice sport without discrimination." But does a woman have the right to practice sport only against other women? All athletes participating in the boxing tournament of the Olympic Games Paris 2024 comply with the competition's eligibility and entry regulations, as well as all applicable medical regulations set by Paris 2024 Boxing Unit. Here's all the applicable rules. As with previous Olympic boxing competitions, the gender and age of the athletes are based on their passport. Well, there's the first problem. You can have X on some passports, so which division are they in? And based on birth certificates in New Zealand, which are now nonsensical, you can identify as whatever you want, irrespective of chromosomes and biology. It's simply based on how you identify. But the birth certificate then becomes the basis of the passport. Now, look, there's definitely some nuances around this case in that it's possibly not a clear-cut male to female switch. Although this nuance would have existed for every Olympics that's been, and it hasn't become the problem that we've seen at this one. But what is clear is that some sporting authorities refuse to base their regulations on biology. They've become woke in the name of DEI, diversity, equity and inclusion, and it's harming women, ironically. And the IOC statement has this discussion, but then at the end it says, eligibility rules should not be changed during ongoing competition. They say that any rule change must follow appropriate processes and should be based on scientific evidence. The IOC is committed to protecting the human rights of all athletes participating in the Olympic Games as per the Olympic Charter, the IOC Code of Ethics, and the Strategic Framework on Human Rights. Now, once again, it seems to be the rights of the non-women wanting to compete against women. The IOC is saddened by the abuse that the two athletes are currently receiving. The IBA's recognition, that's the International Boxing Association's recognition, was withdrawn by the IOC in 2023 following its suspension in 2019. The withdrawal of recognition was confirmed. The IOC has made it clear that it needs national boxing federations to reach a consensus around a new international federation in order for boxing to be included on the sports program at the LA Olympics. Well, they're right on that last bit. It should be based on biology to remove all of these idiosyncrasies, if there is such a word. Now, the International Boxing Association put out a statement, and on it they said, it's a little bit longer, but it's got very important details. On 24th of March 2023, last year, the International Boxing Association disqualified athletes Lin Yuting and this Imani Khalif from the IBA Women's World Boxing Championships in New Delhi in 2023. This disqualification was a result of their failure to meet the eligibility criteria for participating in the women's competition as laid out in IBA regulations. This decision, made after a meticulous review, was extremely important and necessary to uphold the level of fairness and utmost integrity of the competition. The decision made by IBA on 24th of March 2023 was subsequently ratified by the IBA Board of Directors on 25th March 2023. The official records of this decision can be accessed, etc. The disqualification was based on two tests conducted on both athletes. A test performed during the IBA Women's World Boxing Championship in 2022 and a test performed during the IBA Women's World Boxing Championships in New Delhi last year. Okay, so two tests over the last 2 years. Now, for clarification, neither of them appealed the decision. Imani Khalif initially appealed the decision, but withdrew the appeal during the process, so that makes the decision actually binding. They say our committees have rigorously reviewed and endorsed the decisions made during the World Championships. Here's the key bit. While IBA remains committed to ensuring competitive fairness in all our events, we express concern over the inconsistent application of eligibility criteria by other sporting organisations, including those overseeing the Olympic Games. The IOC's differing regulations on these matters, in which IBA is not involved, raise serious questions about both competitive fairness and athletes' safety. For clarification on why the IOC permits athletes with competitive advantages to compete in their events, we urge interested parties to seek answers directly from the IOC. Now, the Italian Prime Minister, who is Giorgia Meloni, a conservative, said, "I think that athletes who have male genetic characteristics should not be admitted to women's competitions. And not because you want to discriminate against someone, but to protect the right of female athletes to be able to compete on equal terms. I was emotional yesterday when she wrote, 'I will fight,' because the dedication, the head, the character surely also play a role in these things. But then it also matters to be able to compete on equal grounds, and from my point of view, it was not an even contest." But it's happened in other sports. For example, Riley Gaines is a 12-time All-American swimmer with 5 titles, was a successful female swimmer at University of Kentucky, and she was going to be a dentist, but that postgraduate ambition in her entire life was changed when she was forced to share a locker room and then compete against biological male, on the left there, fairly obvious, Leah Thomas, at the 2022 National Women's Swimming Championship. She says biological men should not take opportunities for success in sports away from women, and biological men should definitely not share locker rooms with women. And then there's Deborah Ackerson, maiden name Lovely, Deborah Lovely. She's arguably Australia's most accomplished female weightlifter, 2-time Olympian at Athens 2004 and Beijing 2008, 5-time Commonwealth Game representative and medalist, 7 times World Championship representative. She was the first woman inducted into the Australian Weightlifting Federation Hall of Fame, and she experienced the unfairness of competing against a male in the female category at the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games against a New Zealander. Yes, Laurel Hubbard. She's more recently been speaking on the topic of transgender athletes and spoke at the Forum on the Family last year. Look, the key message from this, apart from the fact that the Olympic Games is simply exposing what's happened to our culture when you reject God and We saw that in the opening ceremony with drag queens and transvestites and mocking religion. And then we also are now seeing it as we mock biology. But the message is, don't let this happen in New Zealand to a woman. Not in our sports, not in our toilets, our changing rooms, not in our schools, not anywhere. Stop telling children that they may be the opposite sex. Now, we have a petition. We're planning on submitting this petition to force the issue on our politicians. Whatisawoman.nz, and it's about defining woman as adult human female in all our policies, laws and regulations. If you haven't signed the petition yet, please sign it. Do it now. Go to whatisawoman.nz. It's time that we protected women and girls. It's time to celebrate everything that is good and beautiful about women in our policy making, in our schools, in our communities, in our workplaces and business brands. Go to whatisawoman.nz. Read what Kiwi women have to say on this issue. Sign the petition, and we need this conversation to happen, because what we saw at the Olympics was a simple outcome of a confusing ideology that, at worst, harms women.